Hello and welcome to the debut episode of The Creative Entrepreneur, brand new interview series that I'm really excited to kick off here. This is brought to you by the DIY Career Manifesto, which just happens to be a new book that I'm working on. And in fact, I've already written like 23 pages, like over 7,000 words I've already written, and I'm giving it away free. That's right. This is a new sort of unconventional publishing model for me, but I'm very impatient and I don't want to wait until the book is complete before getting it out into the world. So I want you to read and let me know what you think. I think you'll get a lot out of it. You can get your very own copy by going to DIYcareermanifesto.com and just entering your name and email, and you'll be taken right to the download page. And you'll also be on a mailing list where I will, every time I post a new interview in this series, I will also let you know when those go online. So I am really excited with this debut episode to be interviewing an old friend of mine, Scott Ginsberg. Now, Scott and I first met back in 2003 in St. Louis, which was our hometown at the time, and he's since moved to Brooklyn and has a life there now. But Scott has a fascinating story, and by the way, that's a picture of me on the right with Scott a few years ago at the Book Expo America in New York City. He has a giant name tag on, and I've got this little dinky one. I'm feeling kind of inadequate there. But Scott, back in 2000, when he was about 19 years old, I think what happened is he left like a convention or a conference or something. Like a lot of people, you wear a name tag at these things, and he left and kind of forgot that it was on, and people started saying, "Hey, Scott, how's it going?" And he realized, well, that's kind of cool. People are actually talking to me and I'm engaging with people. And he said, I wonder what it would be like to wear a name tag all the time. So he started doing that. And I think after a year of doing that, he wrote a book called Hello, My Name is Scott. And the media picked up on it, and he actually got a lot of coverage early on, like on the morning news show on CBS and CNN and so on. And I remember him talking about how he made mistakes doing those early interviews. But another thing that was sort of confusing for him is even though he got all this great media coverage, people weren't really buying a whole lot of books. He wasn't really making any money off of that notoriety. And actually someone asked him a crucial question that he talks about during the interview that turned things around for him. And brilliant guy that he is, he ended up taking this concept of wearing a name tag every day, which he's been doing now for like 13 years, and he turned it into a lucrative speaking career, talking about approachability and how companies can be more friendly and open and engaging with their customers. And it's true, I've seen him speak a number of times and he never gives the exact same talk twice. So Scott has talked all over the world at corporations and organizations of all kinds, while continuing to get media exposure and like Fast Company. He was on 2020 on ABC. Just all this cool stuff. He also started nametagtv.com, where he created short video clips on like entrepreneurship, sales, and marketing. And he actually recorded these in his apartment using a green screen. I know because I visited him there and saw the setup. And amazingly, at a young age, he's now in his early 30s, but he's actually written and published, he says, like 25 books, and he gives them all away free from his website. I think the URL you can go to is stealscottsbooks.com. So as I mentioned, this is the debut episode of a new video series, and even though I'm pretty savvy this technology stuff, I've been online since the mid-90s. This recording Skype video interviews is a brand new thing to me, and about 15 minutes into my discussion with him, Skype crashed, and I didn't know it till later, but I actually lost the very introductory part of our interview. But the good news is that part of the interview that I do have actually starts with the list of questions that I plan to ask him. And that's part of the format of this video show. I plan on interviewing creative entrepreneurs of all kinds, people doing all kinds of cool things who have found a way to do it full time or to make an impact in the world. And I'd like to ask them the same series of questions about how they got there, how they think, what inspires them, all that good stuff. And so without further ado, let's turn over to the part of the video I was able to save where I start with the very first question with Scott. Enjoy. So looking back over the past decade or so, name 3 key things that were responsible for your growth to full-time status. They could be beliefs, actions, key moments, insights, but 2 or 3 things you think were responsible for that.
Sure. One of them is my college professor, a guy named Dr. Rosenthal. And when my first book came out, I gave a presentation to his class. And I shared my whole thing. And when it was done, he said, Scott, I know what your problem is. I'm like, what? He goes, you don't know what your product is. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, are you selling a book? Are you selling you? Are you selling an idea? What are you selling? And I didn't have an answer. So when I started to figure out the answer to that question, literally, what are you selling? That made a huge difference.
Oh, cool. It kind of ties into what we just talked about.
That was huge, and that was very early on. That was 2003. Only a couple years into it. The next example, I will use something from 2008-ish, around that time. I was interviewed for a publication, but it was not about my story, and it wasn't about like my philosophy, or it wasn't about name tags. It was about creativity, content organization, sort of the way that I work, which I kind of have my own system for. And when the article came out, I shared it with my mom, and she looked at it and she was like, wow, this is interesting, Scott. You've done like hundreds of interviews, but this is the first one that has nothing to do with your name tag.
Oh, wow.
And that was really interesting. And it was one of those moments that I coined in my mind of sort of living larger than your labels, pun intended.
Nice.
And I think it was from that sort of pivotal moment that I realized, oh, there's so much more that I can do. It's okay to be known for more than one thing. And that was really just huge. So that's my second one. The third example, I'll use something from last summer. This is really cool. After having done this for 12, 13 years or so, I did something I've never done before last summer. Nothing. Like I did nothing. I took a summer sabbatical for 3 months and I did nothing. And by that, I mean, I didn't work. I didn't do anything. I slept a lot. I went for a ton of walks in the park. I wrote a ton of music. I had just the best summer ever, and it really refreshed me, and it's really what I needed, and I would recommend it to everybody.
Did you stop blogging too during those 3 months?
Yeah, sure did.
Because you had a hectic. I barely even mentioned the blog, but it was like been listed as one of the top 100 business blogs in the world, or whatever. Yeah. And
I was like, I don't care, man. I don't owe anybody anything. I deserve it, and it was great.
Wow. So because I didn't know a lot about what's transpired over the past year, and so this is kind of an interesting evolution of a creative person too, and we'll get maybe into some more deep details of that. But so you covered the three things. Very cool insights. And then so along with the successes, I mean, you've even touched on them already. We all have challenges or obstacles, and so share like a major business or creative challenge that you faced at some point over the years, and then how did you overcome it, and what did you learn from it?
I got audited by the IRS a few years ago.
Whoa.
Which sucks. And not because I did anything illicit or illegal. When you're a small business or an entrepreneur, my accountant refers to there's a lot of opportunities for areas of abuse. That's what the IRS calls it. And a lot of that often becomes under the topic of travel. So if you are an entrepreneur or a musician and you travel a lot, when you do your taxes, travel becomes one of those categories of your tax return that is an area of abuse. So basically the IRS just says, here's 26 line items. Please obtain these pieces of information from your bank or whatever, your credit card, and submit them, and it's fine. So crisis averted, you pay some money, which like kind of hurts. But the key to me was it was a wake-up call financially. And it was one of those things where I have never been good at managing my money. And I'm cursed, the ultimate curse of the artist. I'd rather be heard than paid. And it's important to me, and I stand by it, but it's a curse. And because of this curse, I'm not as diligent and conscientious with my spending and everything as I should be. So getting audited by the IRS will get your financial stuff in order, and it made a huge difference from that point on.
Did you like hire a bookkeeper, or what did you do? Did you do anything differently specifically?
Absolutely. I had someone doing my taxes annually, but I didn't have like a monthly bookkeeper. Like every month, here's a report. Here's what came in. Here's what came out. And by hiring that person every month, wow, just being able to take a pulse of your business every month in that way. Like, how stupid was I to not have done that earlier?
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
But it just reminds me of another thing. I'm actually I may have mentioned it in the intro before we got to our interview that I'm working on a book called the DIY Career Manifesto.
Nice.
It's basically about, it's like part autobiography, part how-to business book, part a lot of business lessons for entrepreneurs with using my life and so on, as with a lot of examples from it. But one piece of advice I had in there that I know goes against the grain is especially early on, like when somebody has this idea for a business, but they don't have the book out there, they haven't really started, they're just still in the idea stage. There's a lot of professional advice about, oh, you need to have a bank account, and you need to have your business cards and your stationery and all this and that. And I'm like, why don't you wait to see if there's something to build a business around first?
Right,
why don't you put it out there and like earn your first 100? See if there's even an interest in this thing that you're doing. And I stand by that advice. But I guess the lesson here with what you just told about the IRS is once you are up and going and you're running and you know, okay, this is a sustainable thing, then maybe it's good to get all those ducks in order, right? But I don't think you have to do it ahead of time. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I think never underestimate the importance of utility. Mm-hmm. Like, have something useful first.
Right.
And then sell it. Then you can do that other stuff. But it's like, have something cool or interesting or useful or meaningful. Get some attention. Get people to get behind it. Then you can sell it. Then you can get a bookkeeper.
Yeah, then you can start the bank account and the LLC or whatever, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's like if you hire a bookkeeper and the only check on your register is the one you're using to pay her, you have a problem.
Good point. So here's an interesting one. So if you could give advice to your younger self, this is actually like the 3-part question. There was a recent movie of Star Trek that came out where young Spock met old Spock. Did you see that one? There, Leonard Nimoy played old Spock, and they came face to face. So what if you could actually do that? Go back, and I think when you started, so the name tag thing, you were like around 19 or something. Yeah. When you first started that, now you're in your early 30s. And so if you could go back and talk to 19-year-old Scott, this is a 3-part question and answer series. Uh-huh. What advice would you give? What would you do the same? Like, what would you do that worked that you say, yeah, keep doing, like, do that again? Yeah.
I mean, keep just shamelessly promoting yourself every option you possibly can. I'm like, it's like just every possible way you can, just tell everybody about everything you do all the time, everywhere, forever.
Right.
I don't do it anymore because I don't have to. Right. So I think the key is like, do that. Just tell the world until you don't have to anymore.
Very, very, very cool. Are there any right and wrong ways to do that? Is there a way to self-promote to where you kind of turn people off as opposed to the cool way? Or
I am sure there is, but who cares?
Right. Just don't be afraid to let people know what you're up to.
Yeah.
So that's what you would do the same. What would you, like, what didn't work? What would you avoid? What would you tell young Scott, don't do this because it's really not worth your time?
I attempted to do a podcast.
I remember that.
And I did 10 episodes or something, but and this was before podcasts had really taken off, so timing was wrong. But it was just me. Like, I listen to 15 different podcasts. I do a podcast with Brittany all the time, so every week or so. So like, if I would have done a podcast, I would have been smart and done it with my friend Bob or Andy Masters, or somebody that like we can talk and build off each other in that sort of improv comedy kind of way, other than just sitting there doing a podcast of me reading something I already wrote. Just horrible.
Right. I remember you calling me and asking for podcasting tips because I had started one.
Oh man, what did I know? How dumb.
Well, that's cool because there's 3 what do you call it, modes of communication online. There's text, there's audio, and then there's video, which kind of combines them all. So you obviously, the blogging was a big part of your online presence, and then you did the name tag TV, and you ended up doing a lot of video, so that's cool. You can't necessarily be the king of all media like Howard Stern on the internet. So this podcasting was not your particular thing, but for other people, it might be their. So that's cool. So it's like, know your communication style and your strengths, and stick with that, and just disregard the other stuff. And then, what is something that you would either add into the mix that you didn't do, or maybe something that you would do earlier? Wish that you could have done, that you didn't, if you're talking to young Scott?
Yeah, I would have blogged earlier.
Okay.
And I blogged really early. I started blogging in 2003. I didn't do it every day. I mean, I've been blogging for 10 years, and I do it every day now. But when I started, it was a couple times a week. I would have installed that accountability of every day you have to do this. Because I was writing every day. I've always written every day, but I wasn't publishing it. And there is something to that, you got to put it out there, and people may never read it, but you're sort of accountable, even if it's just to yourself or your mother who reads the blog. But I would have started blogging earlier, and I would have given myself an editorial calendar and forced myself to do it every day, because that is the smartest thing I ever did. It is still the smartest thing I ever do. I blog every day. I love it. It is giving me everything, and I cannot believe more people still don't do it.
They used to quote Jeffrey Gitomer, who said, what was that quote about writing is the what?
Jeffrey said, writing is the basis of all wealth.
You still believe that?
Absolutely. I wrote a book of that title. Of course, I gave him credit. And it's the greatest thing ever.
And as far as the consistency of getting content out there, you used to always, I remember because I've heard each other speak in St. Louis and so on, and used to talk about, was something like a piano, or was the sheer volume of stuff that you get out there? What do you remember what that metaphor was? Or
I do. It's just about, it's sort of like physics, and it's just, I'm all about volume and not accuracy. So I'm not trying, I don't want to be right. I just want to be everywhere.
Oh, wow.
So whether you are writing music or doing interviews or coughing into a microphone, the key is that
volume, yeah.
Just do a ton of it. It's all about being pervasive and being everywhere. My organic SEO is insane. Never paid for AdWords or any of that stuff. It's just volume. And it's think of it this way. I'm 33 years old. I've written 25 books. Doesn't make sense. I should not have had that done. So I'm not taking it away from myself. I'm just saying, I understand the perspective of other people. There's no way you should have written that. I'm I know. Yeah. Now, there is a PhD of psychology, I'm sure, at some university who, if you ask them about what does it mean to be approachable, I guarantee you they know way more than I do. They have studies to back it up. They can give you the scientific knowledge of everything about approachability, interpersonal communication, blah, et cetera, et cetera. But when you Google the word, I come up first. So that's the power of volume.
That's cool. Yeah, and to be prolific, whatever it is, whether you're an artist or you're a coach or whatever, just get a lot of stuff out there. Because there's so many people timid about, I'll blog once a month or something, or I don't want to bug people too much, But obviously, you have a different philosophy.
Would you? Yeah, it's would you rather bug people or not be on their radar at all? It's the guy. What's the name of the guy that did the song a day thing?
Oh, Jonathan Colton.
I love. It's amazing. What and he's installed accountability to what he did. And that, I write music. I write songs. That's hard to write a song a day. I write a song a month if I'm lucky. So you never underestimate the power of prolificacy. Just get it out there. Just be everywhere. Just tons of it.
Yeah. Actually, I think Jonathan Colton wrote a song, he called it A Thing a Week. That was back in 2006.
Yeah.
But there are people that have done a song a day.
Right.
In fact, I know somebody who did that, and it really wore them out, but they got it done. I don't know if they did it for a whole year or what the deal was, but be prolific. That's a key takeaway here. Another question, a couple more, and then we can wrap this up. But I know you're big. You're not only have written a lot of books, but you read a lot of books. So name at least one book that changed your life, and explain why.
You know what is unfortunate is that business books at current 2013 summer, most of them suck now. It's really sad. It has gone downhill. I used to read so many books, and now it's just the same recycled junk, and it really saddens me because I'm such a book advocate. So I would have to back up.
That's okay. It could be from any era, yeah.
Yeah, I got to back up to a long time ago. I still have to say 2003, Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art. It is the greatest. I read a lot of books, not as much as I used to, but I read a ton. And the only book that I reread every year for the past 10 years is The War of Art. I try to read it in August. I don't know why, but every summer I read The War of Art. It's the greatest book of all time.
Cool, and it's about an artist or creative person's kind of daily battle with resistance with a capital R. All those distractions and those things to say, oh, I'll put off doing that blog post, or I'll put off writing the song, or creating the art piece. And so it's how to deal with that, right?
It is, and it's cool because it's the kind of book that we can all read and filter ourselves into it. Because maybe you couldn't care less about art, okay? What do you care about? Well, maybe you have a problem with an addiction to alcohol or something like that. This is the kind of book that talks about doing the work to overcome whatever you're dealing with. Maybe you've had bad luck in relationships and you really want to find this person to commit yourself to. The book talks about whatever daily work needs to be done to overcome the resistance to, walk away from stuff you're afraid of. Like, forget about the fact that the word art is in the title. Like, every human being needs to read this book. It is the best. I will buy people a copy. I don't care.
You heard that, folks. This context.
I'm gonna get 20 emails, and then I'm gonna have to spend $1,000 buying copies.
Yeah, that's okay. So actually, the next question has to do with future plans and like what's upcoming. But we probably ought to give a little bit of a twist on what's happened with you in the last year. So I know you moved to Brooklyn, and you said last summer you just took 3 months off, like the sabbatical idea. I mean, that's sometimes when I think to myself, yeah, I've been at this for so long, maybe I could. But you've also done some other. You've kind of gotten away from a lot of the stuff that we've talked about. You just want to explain that process and why you evolved to this point, and I'm sure it'll be helpful.
So, on May 15th of 2012, a little over a year ago, I was eating ice cream at a place called Uncle Louie's. And why you remember details like this, I don't know, but I was eating peanut butter chocolate chip cookie dough sorbet. It was so good. It was so good. And I don't really eat sugar anymore, so it's like I really miss that. And I'm eating ice cream, and like I had been going through I could feel certain transitions, sort of threshold type of moments in my professional life, and I couldn't pinpoint it. But I was eating ice cream, and I realized, I'm like, holy cow, like I am totally burned out, bored, and lonely.
Wow.
And like as I admitted that to myself, I'm like, whoa. And I realized, like, I think I'm done. Like, I'm pretty sure I need to retire from this and just, I don't know what I want to do next, but I've done everything I've ever wanted to do. I've had all the success I ever wanted and times a million, and like, yeah, I'm good. It's like my mentor a long time ago said, like, there's this moment that every entrepreneur has to ask him or herself, and that is, when will you have done enough to be okay with yourself? And I reached that point. I was eating ice cream, and I'm like, I think I've done enough to be okay with myself. And like, I've never had such a moment of physical release. Like, you talk about, like, it's such a metaphor to like have a burden be lifted off your shoulders. Like walking home back to my apartment in this like beautiful day in May in this like beautiful new town that I've moved to, like, I felt lighter. It was this glorious thing. And I came home, and I talked to Brittany, my soon-to-be wife, and I told her, I said, hey, I quit. I'm retiring. And, kind of went through this whole thing. And I spent the weekend writing myself a letter of resignation.
Wow. Because you're the boss of you, right?
And I'm a writer. And I don't know what I think until I write what I feel.
That's interesting.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's how I'm wired. So I spent the whole weekend writing out everything I was going through in terms of being bored and lonely. Because I'm bored because it's like I've done everything. I'm good. I don't have anything else I want to do. I'm burned out because I'm tired. I've been doing this for 13 years and I can't do it anymore. And I'm lonely. I've been working in my living room, looking at the wall for over a decade, and I'm like, I'm an extrovert. I need people. I can't take this anymore. So. I wrote all of that in a 10-page resignation letter. I didn't show it to anybody. I just did it for me. And then I spent the next 3 months doing nothing.
Right.
and went to the park. Like I said, I took a trip to Mexico and to Alaska with my family, which is really important too, and just to get that perspective and get in touch with nature, all that stuff. And I came back, I was like, all right, man, let's go find the new job. Wow. And yeah, and I was like, I'm not going to delete anything, all the websites, everything I've ever done. It's still going to be alive. It still lives. If people want to, hire me or something, like, sure, we can still talk about it. But like, I want to find cool people and do other stuff. So I literally Googled coolest companies in New York, and a bunch of places came up, and one of which was called Poke, like Poke.
Right.
And I emailed them, introduced myself, and said, I'm retiring as an entrepreneur. I don't know what I can do for you, but you guys seem cool, and I'm cool, and cool people should stick together. So what do you say? And they were like, yeah, come on in. So I showed up one day, and I just talked to them, and they said, all right, well, we like your stuff. And I brought a couple things for them, that I've been working on. And they said, cool, come in for a project. We'll test you out. We'll see how it goes. We'll pay you as a freelancer for, a week or two. And then, it went great, and one thing led to another, and now I'm there full time, and it's awesome.
And what do you do there? Are you like a creative director, or are you just an idea guy, or what? Or?
Yeah, I eat a lot of cereal. No, I do. My job is kind of cut in half. 60-40. 60% of my job is creative strategy. So all of the research and the strategic approaches and the sort of setting up the concepts that our designers and technologists build, I kind of put together. And, we're an innovation company, so we build disruptive technologies online and offline for big clients. And, my job is to kind of get it all together, get the research, serve it up to the designers who build stuff and make it pretty, and then we give it to the clients. That's most of my job. And I also do some internal marketing and sort of, branding Poke as an organization. I'm part of that as well.
Oh, cool. So it's funny because, you revealed this to me, or give me a short version of it, actually, right before we hit the record button. And so there's two reactions. My initial reaction was, oh, no, this show is supposed to be for creative entrepreneurs who are doing their thing full time and how they got there, And so you've kind of moved away from that back into the day job world. But as I've been letting this settle in, it occurs to me that this is pretty cool in that, because we live in this era where you're certainly having a job working for a big company your entire life is virtually a thing of the past. We all so instead of doing that, you're better off or even more secure doing your own thing. But it occurs to me that same principle of doing the same thing your entire life or for a decade or two also can apply to the entrepreneurial path. Just because you were passionate about a certain thing and you built up this business working for yourself and you had all these accolades, that doesn't mean you're going to be happy, or you should do that forever, And so the beauty about the era we live in is you have choices. You can go back into the regular world, and maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line, you'll be doing something else,
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Like Derek Sivers of CD Baby, who is a big hero of mine, he wrote a great blog post about keeping your identity small, which is really interesting. It really kind of blew my mind a few months ago when I saw it. But it's like, you don't necessarily have to limit yourself, or I'm sorry, I'm saying the wrong term. You don't. It's okay to switch gears and to try something else, and I had thought that I had found my whole true calling and true passion that I would do forever. But the thing is, like, I think with your passion or what you're really good at or sort of your approach, like, I think that shows up everywhere. And so, like, what I mean is, working at Poke, I still do all the things that I used to do.
Right.
The difference is, number one, I don't have to do it alone. Thank you, Jesus. Number two is, like, I get to do it on a bigger scale and on a bigger canvas. And you mentioned, I love a blank canvas. So, and then the other neat thing is, to use another music metaphor, like working in my previous occupation as an entrepreneur, writer, publisher, speaker, etc. Like, it was like recording on a 4-track, and now I'm on a 16-track. Because there's a lot of skills and gifts that I think you can't tap into if you're working alone. I mean, there's the teamwork component, there's the leadership component, there's the sort of daily office work of collaboration. You can't do that if you're in your pajamas until 2 p.m. in your living room every day. So now that I work at Polk, it's like Walt Whitman said, I can sort of make use of everything that I am.
Right. That's cool. No, I commend you for that. And so that might actually a lot of people who will watch this later might go, whoo! So all that frustration I was feeling working by myself, maybe I'm not so crazy.
No. Oh my God, it's nuts.
Yeah. And I can totally relate. I mean, actually, this is the debut of this new video series called The Creative Entrepreneur. Earlier, I mentioned this new book that I'm working on called the DIY Career Manifesto, which I'm going to be giving away like a pretty meaty sample of it as soon as it's finished. Or as soon as I finish the sample, then I'm going to expand it into a full book, at some point. But both of these things are related, and it's actually a new direction that I'm expanding into. I've been feeling that sort of calling to do more. I still love the music marketing stuff that I've been doing for 20 years, and I still totally relate to the musicians. And then I also, I've had a full-time author.com site for several years now for authors, and I will continue catering to those audiences. But I feel this information, I can expand into people of many different fields, and so this is I don't know, it's something I'm excited about moving into, and so I can totally relate to what you're saying there about doing that. So that's pretty much. So any other future? I know you mentioned music that you're doing more. Any other big hairy audacious goals or anything that we haven't talked about that is in the near future besides getting married in the fall?
Yeah, getting hitched, obviously. That's a really interesting topic. I won't get too much into this, but like I was always big goal setter and sort of write your list of 100 goals, at the beginning, all that kind of stuff. And the thing is, like, I wrote 100 goals for myself every year for a lot of years and kept it in my wallet and crossed everything off and did all this stuff. And like, so now when I'm thinking about, goals and stuff, I'm like, who cares? I just want to be happy.
Yeah.
So my big, hairy, audacious goal is be happy.
That's pretty cool. It's like Bobby McFerrin sang, man. Don't worry, be happy.
Yeah. Who knew that was, enough to be one goal?
Yeah, and actually, there's another. I can't remember where I heard the source, but I know one form of goal setting is to pick specific and measurable, the SMART goals. I'm going to, meet X number of whatchamadoodle by this date. And that can be effective. But another form of goal setting is to say, how do I want to feel?
Yeah.
With this project, at the end result, when I finish the book, what do I want to feel? What's this? Do I feel exhilarated? Do I want to feel, satisfied and productive or whatever, meaningful? So actually, work toward more of a feeling goal. It's kind of what you're talking about there. I just want to be happy.
Well, yeah, it's like you look at a list of goals and it's like, if I do all these things, like then I'll be happy. It's like, well, why don't I just start with the happy thing? Why don't I just work on being happy, and then like whatever gets me there, sweet.
That's brilliant. I love it. Well, this has been awesome. It's been a fantastic debut interview for The Creative Entrepreneur. So I know you're going through a transition, but you said all your stuff is still up there, and you do continue to blog, right?
Yeah, I blog every day. Just Google name tag, and you will find more than you ever needed or wanted or cared to know about my crazy brain.
And approachability, obviously, you said, comes up on the first page of Google results.
Just all that stuff. If you Google bad tattoos, I will come up on every tattoo website there is.
Oh my God.
A couple weeks ago, I was asked to be on a reality show where people get their bad tattoos covered up with better tattoos.
Right.
I rejected it, but it was fun to be asked.
That's so funny. And I do think your blog is at HelloMyNameIsScott.com, right?
That's my main site. The blog site is Hello, My Name Is Blog. I'm sure we're overwhelming people, so it's like
we'll
I keep
it there.
Just Google name tag. It's really simple.
All right, cool. Scott, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you being my first guest, and you'll always hold that honor, sir.
Oh, thank you. I love you, Bob.
All right, love you too, dude.
Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot.